Want to take a ride? Climb aboard the Anomaly train with me, where we'll discuss everything from skinwalkers and UAPs to angels and NDEs. My name is C.K. Shali, and I've been a seeker of the metaphysical, the miraculous, and the phenomenal for 6 decades. What I found, I want to share with you. So come along for the ride, and let's see where we'll end up. Today's stop on the Anomaly line is all about starseeds. My guest is Cassie Boisclair, who is going to tell us all about starseeds, what they are, and what some of the different kinds are. Cassie is the mother of a 2-year-old girl, and both she and her daughter are star quality beautiful, and her fiance is the father. You can see this handsome couple on YouTube called Relaxing with J&C. Cassie is currently working as a restaurant manager at a casino. She is also going for her real estate license and wants to complete a master's degree in psychology so that she can be a school counselor. This is a girl on the go with both feet on the ground and a lot of ambition. Welcome, Cassie.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Carol, thanks so much for having me on. So fun.
Happy to have you. Now, our topic today is starseeds. So jump in. What are starseeds and how did you get involved with it?
So I just want to go ahead and preface all of this with the fact that everything I explain here is based solely off of my own experiences. And, I'm no expert on this, and I don't personally believe that anybody really is, but starseeds they're fascinating in that they're super advanced spiritual beings. So from what I gather, just based off of different researches and podcasts that I've listened to, they're basically souls traveling from other planets and different realms. And they're put here on Earth, among other places, I'm sure, because, I know we're not the only planet with living beings, I believe.
So let me stop you and say, how are they put here on Earth?
Through consciousness. So they're put here, they're basically, it's kind of hard to explain. It's that when you get more in depth to that particular aspect of it, I'm not necessarily super expertise on it necessarily, but what I do know is that they're just from different planets, and basically there's an agreement that you're put here on Earth through a consciousness. And when you come here, like I said, it is an agreement. So you're put here and then you kind of forget why you're put here. There's a mission. And that's what I gather from everything. So you're here to uplift the human race, bring light and knowledge, and pretty much just help the entire planet's evolution through awakening others' consciousnesses. So to get, I guess, a little further into that, I want to basically explain that when a starseed is put here on Earth, they're here for a mission. They forget where they're from and what the initial mission was before agreeing to travel here. They have no idea, but that's the whole purpose of being here. And I know that's kind of out there, but that's the general idea of it. And this is one reason why some people feel like they don't belong or fit here on Earth. Or why they may be, let's say, strongly drawn to the sky and to the stars and to different galaxies. And the reason why it's hard to explain is because it's almost unexplainable.
Okay.
And the only way that I can personally explain it, it's just like a knowing.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Now we're talking about a soul that is born inside a human body, not a person who is dropped off on Earth fully grown as from another planet who is interacting with people.
Exactly. Yes. So that is not, yeah. And I know that there are definitely different theories, and I guess you can call them conspiracies. And that's definitely not what I believe in. That's not that's not what I've been told, like through meditations and like have heard and like felt and known for myself. We are a human being, but there is like a consciousness and just like a connection that you're put here. I don't want to ruin our podcast, but Nora's being very loud.
That's okay. Nora is her daughter and she's adorable. And yes, we'll probably hear background noises. So please bear with us. My cat will sometimes make noise, and then there's always the rooster. So, you know, we can go with that. Don't worry about it. So
okay,
speaking
good.
of which, maybe Nora wanted to let us know, could she be a starseed?
Honestly, she very well could be. And I haven't really seen, she's only 2, so I haven't really seen any like signs yet, but I'm sure they're coming because she is my daughter and I have a feeling about it.
Probably because you have a sense that you are a starseed as well. And how did that begin? When did you start to feel different?
So that is a great question. So essentially what happened for me is I actually didn't know anything about starseeds or different spiritual beings at all until a very specific meditation session that I experienced one day a couple years ago.
Oh, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was having kind of a rough day, and I really needed to do a deep like healing meditation. So I actually did. Are you familiar with cacao?
No.
So cacao, it's basic, it's a drink, and it's like a healing ceremonial type drink that's like dated back like centuries old, used in rituals for like ultimately like opening up your heart and allowing your blood to flow a little more to your brain, and it helps strengthen your awareness and your focus. That ultimately helps you heal your body and just kind of gives your immune system a good boost. But when you go into the meditation whilst drinking this cacao, it just really, yeah, it really kind of like opens up like your third eye, and it kind of opens up your heart, and it helps you get into a deeper meditation, for lack of being able to explain
so
it.
people are going to want to know what this is. Is it CACAO? Is that how you spell it? And how do you purchase it? Does it come as a powder, a drink?
Yeah, you can get it from many places. You can get it online. You can get it from a lot of like shops. If you find like a small shop that like sells crystals and places like that, chances are they're carrying it. But you want to make sure that it's organic and it's like sustainably foraged, because basically you don't want anything like that has chemicals and crap in it. So
okay, so is this like a powder you mix with water, or do you buy this already as a powder?
Yep, it's basically the pure version, I believe, I guess I don't know maybe everything about it, of cocoa.
Okay.
So it's basically like a hot chocolate, but it has like a different more advanced kind of flavor to it. It's kind of difficult sometimes when you first try it. It doesn't taste the greatest, but it helps with your meditations for sure. So I did my little so I did my little cacao healing ceremony for myself. So basically what I did is I brought it to my chest. I did a few deep breaths, and I just really opened up my heart and, you know, my crown, my third eye, everything, and really went into a deep meditation with the intention of needing to know where I belong. I was focusing on whether things were going to look up anytime soon. Now, this was at the beginning of the pandemic, and so I, just like many others, kind of had a heightened anxiety and just a general worry that I couldn't seem to shake off. So during this meditation, now this could be a little crazy for some people, but I 100% astro traveled. through many different planes. And I ended up in what I believe to be a ship of some sort. And there were about 4 to 5 different, what I now know were Arcturian beings.
Wow.
And they were absolutely beautiful. There are honestly no human English words even made up to describe them. They had like translucent, yeah.
Do your best.
Yeah, they had translucent skin. They were shining, glowing, the color blue, that a color that we can't even see in this universe. And they were able to speak to me without words.
How tall were they?
They were little. They were like little things, and they were almost levitating. From what I remember, I mean, the experience happened so quickly, but they told me that they brought me back, specifically said brought me back, to let me know that my mission's on the right track and that humankind is going to be okay. And they said, trust and believe that humankind is going to be all right. And like I said, it was extremely quick, the experience, and then they sent me back. And when I came back to consciousness and awareness, I was lightheaded. I was a little shaky. And because I knew that what I just experienced was real, and I'm not like going through a psychotic break, you know what I mean? Like I had a knowing, and I just knew that like everything that didn't make sense before just kind of clicked. And I felt after that experience even more awakened. And I just had a knowing that I do have a purpose here, and it's here just to help others and to heal others and to be an ultimate like escape for others to be able to listen and help. So that's pretty much like what started my entire like little journey here. And from there, I ended up looking more into this and came across starseeds and the different types of spiritual beings. There are so many different kinds, and I had no idea, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of what landed me to know what I do now.
That must have been a very, I want to say overwhelming experience, but enlightening experience, like nothing you had ever experienced before.
Yeah.
It must have really been quite an opening. Now, do you feel that you are Arcturian?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Why? Tell me.
I think it's because after looking more into what Arcturians actually, like who they are and the type of like being that they are, I relate so much to them. So based on what I know and what I feel, the Arcturians are essentially the healers of humanity. And it makes sense to me personally because I'm extremely empathic and intuitive. And I've always been, so it's weird because I've always been extremely extroverted, and I find a lot of others are introverted because of this next fact, which is whenever I'm in public, it can sometimes feel like overwhelming because I can quite literally feel others' emotions around me, everybody. Yeah, and so you probably can relate to that, and that's why a lot of people that are like me and you and I are actually introverted. So it's kind of interesting how I'm such an extrovert and I like to be out in public. It's almost like I like feeling other people's emotions and like knowing that if I had the courage to, I could help them. But for example, just to kind of go deeper into that, like if someone's walking past me in the grocery store and is sad, that sadness will just surround me. And sometimes I'll even know the cause of their sadness, like whether it be a breakup or like just having a tough time with work, like etc. And this again is just a knowing. And I could be wrong, because I guess I'll never know, because I'll never have the courage to stop that stranger and ask them. But, you know, at the end of the day, whenever I meet someone, I know immediately who they are, how they are, just in general, the type of person they are. And I've never, ever been wrong on that.
Now,
So,
did this start when you were much younger, or is this recent?
absolutely. And so it definitely started when I was younger, and I never understood it. I was a really emotional child. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I felt everybody else's emotions around me. And I didn't know what that meant, or why, or like why I was so emotional, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like almost like a bad thing. So I never really cared to look into it. But now, knowing the why and who I am now, everything just makes so much more sense.
It makes
and it's going to help me be, yeah, exactly. It's going to help me be more open-minded and empathetic to Nora, you know,
Right.
like I'm going to be there for her, and, you know, let her find her own way and not diminish her when she's feeling emotional or like being overwhelmed.
Right, and validate what she's feeling instead of
Exactly.
not understanding it at all. I looked into Arcturians, anticipating this discussion, and one of the characteristics that I came across was that they're calm, grounded, intelligent, analytical, and spiritual. And I can't think of anyone that embodies that more than you. And I, continued on. I said, well, who am I if I am? And you looked into this before. And if I'm anything, it's Pleiadian. It's a different energy. It's, we're like the same, but a little bit different. And again, I'm a healer. I'm a giver. I have all of those things, but I'm not as calm and cool as you are. You give off that calm, serene energy, even when you're excited. And I'm a complete lunatic, on the opposite. So it's like, wow, there must be something to this, because we fit the mold. We really do.
Oh, yeah. That's so funny that you mentioned that, because at the end of the day, yeah, the Pleiadians they basically come to Earth to also help expand consciousness and evolve, which is super similar to the Arcturians. So I think that's another reason why we may be so connected, you and I, is because we do have that starseed connection. And it's like, it's the energy, and you can feel it, and you have a knowing, and that knowing, man, it is so hard. It's unexplainable.
Yeah.
You just know.
The only thing I can relate it to is if you watch how an animal will make friends with another animal. They don't talk. They don't know what their nationality is, what their race is, what anything is, but they feel the energy and they become friends. It can be a cat and a dog, it can a horse and a goat. And it's just that match of energy, and you can't explain that. It's just there. It's impossible to explain. Of course, once I post this podcast, our secrets are out. And then we have to deal with the people who will have a little trouble understanding that we're not a little bit crazy. How do you cope with that?
So it's funny. I've never necessarily felt a calling to like explain the aspect of it like so in depth, like we're talking about. So for me, on the surface, and just for like the general public or just people that I come across, acquaintances, and this discussion comes up, I talk more about the surface, easy to understand. I'm an empath, I'm intuitive, I kind of keep it there.
Where it's acceptable.
And it's not necessarily for the sake of being embarrassed, to talk about, the starseed aspect of it. I just don't feel that it's necessary. I would love for people to know about it. I think that the people that I've spoken to about it usually are people that I guess you could say believe me and or are on the same spectrum, like on the same side as me. Family members. I do have a couple of friends that I have spoken to about it, and they didn't look at me like I was crazy, so that's good. But I haven't had a lot of experiences so far where I've had to kind of navigate through them looking at me like I'm crazy. So it's kind of tough to touch on that topic. I'm just not I'm not really open and out about talking about all of this usually, because I just don't find it necessary in my journey.
Yeah, and I can understand that. I've never brought it up because, well, to me, it's not something I can prove anyway.
Yeah.
So if I could prove it and then seek acceptance, okay, that's one way to go about it, but I can't prove it. It's a guess. It's very likely. I have a great affinity for the type that may be called Pleiadians.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine, very strange. One of the oddest things is the Galactic Federation of Light. That sounds absolutely lunatic coming out of my mouth. Ashtar Command, the Galactic Federation, my heart just explodes saying it and thinking about it. I love that so dearly. And there's a part, that's my heart. My mind says you're out of your mind. No one this can't possibly be real. And yet I'm totally in love with it. Does that make any sense to you?
Oh, it makes 100% sense. And reason being is because I'm extremely familiar with it. The Galactic are, very real in my mind. And I actually was a part of a group, a light workers group, with, is it okay if I name drop here?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Perfect. So one influence that I do have, I know that you did have a question for that, is in starting my journey, is a woman named Kat Fowler. And she's a light worker herself. She also has a podcast called The Soul Awakening. But I came across her, and then I ended up messaging her, and she actually had a whole entire group of light workers, and I was added to the Discord. And they were just a bunch of really awesome people. I'm no longer affiliated with them for just the sake of I am busy. But they would do like group deep meditations where one of the girls, she was able to actually connect in with the Galactic and speak. Now this sounds crazy, but they would speak through her and give us all of like the energy updates and like things that are going on in their dimensions and then in ours, and how they're connecting and how things are changing and all of that. And afterwards, I can, if you're interested, I can hook you up with that information. But it's really interesting and fascinating to listen to, because I guess I truly believed that she was connected in and they were speaking through her and giving us these updates and messages. I didn't think that she was crazy and just like saying stuff.
Well, for informational, because this is audio only, informationally, if people do want to know, the podcast is called Soul Awakening, I think you said. Is that how people can find her? Okay, and it's Kat Bowler, Catkate. How would you
So
spell
it's
it?
K-A-T Fowler, Fowler.
Oh, F, okay, all right. So
Yeah,
anybody who wants to do that, that's the way you would do your search and come across
I
this group.
yeah, I highly recommend it. And I started listening to her a couple of years ago, and she was able to explain and validate a lot of things for me when it comes to just meditation in general, and when it comes to star seeds and all of that. And through her, I found, and you may know this name, Robert Schwartz. Um, so he's the author of Your Soul's Plan. The book is wild, but it really affirmed so much for me in regards to your life's plan. And some of it can be a little much for most people, but I feel like it really resonated with me, and it ties into this whole entire topic that we're talking about today. But yeah, so I was basically just starting my journey, listening to her, and a lot of things just kind of clicked.
So now we're at this point, where do you think what do you think is the ultimate goal? Where are we headed for this assistance and placement that we have?
My gosh, it's so tough to say, because it's like we're getting energy updates daily, and more and more and more of it are just aiming towards, and this is so corny, but the majority of the things that I'm hearing and downloading is just to love one another, and that we're all going to be okay, and that we are moving in the right direction. And it doesn't necessarily seem like it right now, and so that's what makes it so difficult. But I think that you just have to truly believe in that and do your best to stay connected into your highest self, into your highest good. And I think that if you're able to do that, your light and your love will radiate onto others, and that it will ultimately change. But it takes time. So I'm not sure where we're at necessarily. I haven't even connected in and listened in. My last meditation that I did was like a couple weeks ago. I haven't made time, unfortunately, and I really should, because I really felt called to. I've been seeing 333 for the past like 4 days everywhere.
Yeah, 333 to me means the Ascended Masters. I don't know if that means the same to you.
Yes, and I think, and the Ascended Masters, energy, light, like there's so much that goes into that. And I think they're just basically telling me like, hey, reground yourself and connect back in. And I do need to do that. So I'm not sure where we're headed necessarily, but every time that I've connected in, it's always been positive, and I've been told that we're on the right track. And that's so vague, I know. But
well, yeah, for me, I feel like I've been ramped up.
Yeah.
Ramped up and expanded. I'm doing more now than I ever had in my life before, and I feel energetically very different. And I can't even put my finger on that.
No, because it's unexplainable.
Yeah.
It's truly unexplainable. And I think everybody is feeling that way. I don't think it's just you and I.
Not everybody, but a good lot of us who are tuned in.
They may not like necessarily know it on the level that we do, but I know that people like just based off of being able to feel others' energy, it's felt different. Everyone.
That's good.
Me, yeah, like even at work. But I don't know if it's positive or negative. And that's the thing that I'm struggling with, is I can't really, like you said, I can't really put a finger on it. But just the general energy within our dimension just feels different.
Yeah. How would you describe a download? So if other people are having experiences and downloads, but they don't know what they are, they don't know anything about this, they've never experienced it before, what should they be looking for or feeling, or what is that may be happening to them?
So it's different for everybody. Of course. There are different types of downloads you could get. It could be like clairvoyant, it could be clairaudient, like you could feel it. Let me break it down because not everybody knows what this means. So you could have a feeling or a knowing where you'll just be thinking about something and it'll just seem a little off, where you're like, where did this thought come from? It could be something that you actually hear, which sounds a little crazy, but
no, I'll stop you there, because one of the things that happens to me a lot is the ringing in my ears.
yes,
It's like I'm getting information in on a higher frequency. I don't understand what it is in words, but it's just a high ring for a little while. You say, oh, your ears are ringing, someone's talking about you. No, my ears are ringing because I'm getting a download right now. And I noticed the other day, the pitch was so much higher. It was a much higher, thinner pitch. I went, oh boy, here we go. This is totally different. Now, do you get the ear thing?
So I get the ear thing, but I'm actually clairaudient personally. So when I'm receiving messages, I'm literally hearing essentially a voice in my head, and it is actually like a clear, not always, but usually like a clear message.
Oh, okay, Cassie, for example, you got to clarify that. Give us what the message would be.
The most recent one, because I don't get downloads all the time. Some people
no one
do
gets them all the time.
I know. And and the people that say they do, I'm like, I don't know about that. I've had like downloads before where they were more so just like, and I don't claim to be psychic. I don't think that I am, but I do believe that I am highly intuitive. And so when I do get a message, I trust. It's essentially like trusting your own gut, and
but you said you're clairaudient, which I am a little bit too. So you tell me what those words were, for example, because if this has not happened to anybody, they're struggling with understanding this right now.
Yeah, you're so right. It's difficult to have a conversation and explain it in like, not to insult, but like ABC terms, because it's like talking with you, I can just say it and you understand it. I'm trying to think of like the most recent download that I had, and it was a couple months ago. And I actually, you know what? It came to me as a message and I wrote it down. Wow. And it actually came out as a poem. And I really wish that I had this with me right now.
That's okay. Just kind of, fake it. You kind of got the gist of what it was.
It's difficult to fake. Like, I kind of want to go get it now.
Okay, we can pause. I'll pause again.
Can we pause?
Yeah, we can
because
pause
this
again.
is important.
Okay, yep. Okay, pause.
Okay. I know that you have other things this afternoon.
All right. Okay, we're back, and Cassie has found what she needed to find, which if it was me, I'd never be able to find it. So I'm very impressed. Okay, Cassie, what have you got?
So basically, the download that I had came to me in words, and a lot of the times I write things down. And this one came in the form of a poem, and it didn't necessarily make sense to me until the very last sentence. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? So basically it says, a canoe can drift or be steered much like the mind. A vessel run by time, encapsulated, dreaming of sunshine. Listen to your mind, surround it with light. You are the oar. I don't even know what this word is. The universe is yours, or something like that. But it was just so crazy to me. Yeah, and I just
lovely.
thank you. And I was just in awe because I was like, wow, like basically I was being told like, listen, like listen to yourself. Like it's basically a message of being intuitive, right? And being aware.
And that's you're
and
powering, yeah, you're powering the journey. I question whether you're going to drift or steer. I'm not sure whether there's advice in there or not, but I think it's a lovely image.
It really, really was. And I'm actually really glad that I found this, because that was the very last download that I have, and it had, and that was probably like 3 months ago. And that was during a time where I was feeling pretty depressed and just really like feeling just such a shift, a negative shift in energy, like within the whole universe. And I think that now things really are, they're feeling, the energy is feeling weird, but I think it's feeling better. I think that, you know, as the human, all of us beings are kind of like descending more towards like love and light and all of that, which again sounds corny, but yeah, I do think.
And let's not minimize the fact that we're also in the middle of a pandemic where there is heightened anxiety, a lot of people going through problems because they're withdrawn from being active with a lot of other people. And this has never been a problem for me. I've always been kind of a loner, I guess, maybe as if you are that empathic and you are that super sensitive, you kind of have to be, because it gets to be too much. So the people that were having great difficulties because they were sort of addicted to constantly going, party, and not having to think about, are suddenly alone with themselves. And very, very, very stressful for them, which I didn't realize the extent of it until we got into the midst of that. So if we go outside of our lovely starseed bubble into the marketplace, it can be very stressful. I think it'd be very stressful because you pick up so much from other people. Let's talk about sensitivity. I think that's one of the things that isn't always understood, is how extremely sensitive you are to everything.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I am extremely sensitive as a human being, and it can be frustrating at times, if I'm being honest, because it kind of ties into just being at work, or, you know, if I'm in like a class or something like that, things that people say. A lot of times, if somebody says something that like upsets me, 9 times out of 10, I'm not upset because I feel personally attacked, or like I feel just like I'm being, you know, made fun of. Like, I think that I'm feeling so sensitive because I'm feeling that other person's like projection. And so I am sensitive in that aspect, where pretty much like we talked about before, I just feel everything. And it's upsetting because I've noticed that there are a lot of people that aren't awakened, and you can tell right off the bat when you first like speak to them, you can tell that they are just living in like the 3rd dimension, and they don't care necessarily about, and they haven't really been introduced to anything different other than their day-to-day lives. And for example, you know, I was at work the other day, and one of my coworkers said something to me, and I overheard the other person, because I had mentioned, oh, well, you know, I'm an empath, so I can't help me feeling about this specific way about this situation. And another person said, I'm definitely not an empath, but all that stuff doesn't make any sense to me. And I was just like, well, you know, what can I really say about that? it's almost like they are just diminishing you for the person that you are. And it's kind of funny because I don't diminish other people's feelings or like what they believe in and stuff like that. So I am extremely sensitive to all sorts of things.
Do you feel this is the way it has appeared to me recently, that we're sort of in two different camps? One is love-based and one is fear-based. And
Yes.
and the fear-based is very hesitant to believe in anything that's not materialistic. It's like they're absolutely terrified of being made a fool of. They're absolutely terrified of being thought to be gullible. So they've closed down on just about everything. And if you are feeling empathetic towards a situation, they think you're gullible and stupid. You know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, no, and I feel that all the time, and I can tell, you know, right off the bat, like I said, I can tell like what this person believes in just by talking to them. So I can kind of gauge and know like where my conversation is going to start and end with this person, because I've already felt who they are, what they are, and what they believe in within the first hello, or even looking at them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and it's kind of funny because a lot of people can see that aspect or like that quality of me. Basically, like I'm potentially judgmental, but I'm not. And it's so funny because I just feel like I just know who you are. And it's hard to explain.
No,
and
I know exactly what you mean. You can judge them instantly. You just don't blame them, I think is the way to put it.
Exactly.
Yeah. How about, you know, now a lot of that's emotional sensitivity, but physically in terms of noise,
I can, yes,
colors.
yes.
I think I have some synesthesia because colors are very important to me, but too many that clash actually sound like noise. Or I mean, you know, it's like what I perceive can actually feel like it's noisy to me. Things like that. Do you have any of those issues?
I have an extreme feeling of fission. And so what that means is like, I'll get like actual like chills or goosebumps and like feel different frequencies and that come from music. And when I'm listening to like certain songs, things like that, and it's a mystery in human nature. And another one of those, which is why it's our type of thinking is so hard for people to believe, because it's unexplainable. Yeah. It's just, you can feel, like I physically feel music, different frequencies, different sounds. And it's just, yeah, that's just what it is. It's called fission. Yeah, but yeah. I get what you're talking about though with colors and like objects and stuff like that, because I do experience that as well sometimes. For example, and this, I'm not sure if this is connected or if it's off topic, but in my meditations, I see colors. Lots of different, different colors will come to me, and that correlates to something within my life, or a week down the road, something will stand out to me and that color matches it. And then something clicks and it makes sense for me. So I get that aspect of it too. We are just interesting people.
And we're just finding out how interesting it is. Which leads me right into the subject of dreams and vivid.
Oh yes.
Yeah. What are my dreams are so vivid. It takes me a while sometimes to figure out whether something's real or not once I wake up. It takes a while for me to realize, wait a minute, that didn't actually happen in this reality. You've got to kind of let that go because that's not real. You just dreamt that. Do you have some of those issues too?
Oh, absolutely. I actually, I remember all of my dreams when I wake up. My dreams are also extremely vivid. And I think that just that ties right on into us being, you know, intuitive, like enlightened beings. I mean, we are certainly not living in the third dimension, you and I, and we are our consciousness and is so heightened that when we're dreaming, a lot of our dreams, what I believe, do have like things within them that connect to our reality and our world, and they may not make sense right away, but sometimes they will, even if they like make zero sense while you're in the dream and even afterwards. Sometimes things within your life, and at least in mine, will connect back to that dream that I had. And I don't know if that's some sort of like psychic type ability or like some sort of like, I couldn't explain it, but yeah.
Maybe synchronicity, who knows?
Synchronicity, yeah, absolutely. And it's odd, and it freaks me out sometimes because I'm like, I talk to people. We were just talking about this, which is a cool kind of like little connection. I was just talking about dreams 2 days ago with some of my coworkers, and they were saying how they don't remember them at all. And we were having this exact conversation, which is funny. So yeah, I don't get it. I've always remembered my dreams since I was little. It's bizarre.
Do you go to recurring places?
I was just gonna say that. Yes, I do. I was just gonna say that. Yes, I was just gonna say. You know, I do have a couple of recurring dreams. Since I was as young as I can, 5 years old. I've been going to this cliff, and it's not like a scary place, but it's almost like if you've seen like in movies where they're like standing over the cliff and there's wind and there's a big sprawling field behind you. It's kind of similar to that. And all the flowers in the field are glowing. Oh. And I've been going to this place for as my whole life. Wow. And it's, yeah, like almost every year I go there, and I don't know what it is or where it is or what it means still to this day. But I go there. There's an attic that I go to. Don't know where it is. No clue. But it's not scary. None of my dreams are scary, especially my recurring ones, luckily. But I know them and they're familiar. And typically when I have those dreams, and I go back to these places that are familiar to me, I wake up and I'm usually in just I have more heightened awareness, and I'm usually in a great mood. Mm. And I have a good like next couple months because I feel almost as if I became more grounded when I'm having those dreams, those recurring, when I'm going to these places that are familiar. So it's really interesting that you bring up dreams because I could talk about that all day.
Maybe we'll get back to it. So have you had some lucid dreams?
Oh, I've lucid dreamed. Yes, I have. And I've never done it purposely though. Unfortunately, I wish that I could. It's happened once or twice for me. And it was a really cool experience. And I was at one time I did it, I was in a city, and I just kind of walked around and just felt so light, and there was just calm, and it was cool because I know that I was in control of what I was doing. And it's only happened once or twice. I wish that I could do it purposefully, but I think that's just a skill I have not mastered.
Yeah, it's a skill and not something I really feel that has to be something I do. If I have a lucid dream,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, I'm dreaming, and I get so excited that I'm in a lucid dream that I wake up. So it's like I, blow the whole opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the other things that happens too is like I'll be dreaming, I'll wake up, and I'll go to turn on a light or something like that. And usually the key, and which I don't always connect to, is that the light doesn't come on. And it's like, oh, I can't get this light on. And then I wake up again. Have you had levels of waking up until you finally wake up and say, how do I know I'm awake now?
It's like Inception. No, I haven't had that, but
I have.
Oh yeah, but I can see how you can especially for somebody that remembers their dreams so vividly, I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I've been levels of dreaming. Well, you'll probably have one now that I said.
Honestly, I probably will now. I'll be thinking about it.
You have to let me know. You have to let
I will. So good. I could talk about dreams forever. It's fun. It's a fun topic.
Now, one of the other things that I noticed about Arcturians, and this is really strange, they said they're good at magic and wizardry, which would not be something I would think about. Is that something that appeals to you?
Oh,
you've
yes.
Tried? Yeah, really? Okay.
So I've never tried necessarily to the extent of like something you'd see in a movie, but for years I practiced Wiccan.
Oh, you did? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay,
And
cool.
yeah, so there was a little period of my life, and I still, to this day, like, I don't necessarily refer to myself, but I do think all that, like, here I am one with the earth, and that's a little woo woo, but I am very naturistic. So yeah, when I was practicing that stuff, I would do, little things here and there, like it's almost kind of like manifestation. I guess you can, for people that don't understand, you can kind of explain it like that, where, for me, I would like write something on a piece of paper, and I would have these different herbs, and I would do all of these things and say these specific words that I found in a book. And and these things would happen. And that might sound crazy, but it worked for me. And ever since then, I mean, I ended up getting into meditations after that, and talking to my grandfather and all this stuff, which I actually didn't tell you about, but like,
oh, guess what? Yeah. There's your big opportunity to tell us about it now.
Yeah.
So go
and so it wasn't a huge period of my life when, that I was into that. But when it comes to like magic and things like that, I've always just been fascinated and drawn to it. So I don't know. I think it's real. So I don't know how to prove it, but I think that
to me, if something works, it's real. What more proof do you need?
I know. But it's like, how would you prove it? You know what I mean? You can't be like, I guess you could. I mean, back then we didn't really have like social media, I didn't have like a cell phone and stuff like that. So it's like, I couldn't like, I guess I could take a picture of whatever this thing was I wrote, and then it happened, a year later, and be like, see?
Yeah, that's proof. All right, tell me, what did your grandfather have to do with it?
So it's a little off, I guess it's a little off topic, because
anything goes.
Okay. So that's another portion of what got me into meditation, which led to learning about starseeds and all of that. Is what really triggered my interest in all of this was my grandfather, because he was always a traveler, and he would tell me stories when he was younger. he would drive cross country for years, living out of a van and joining these like meditation groups and practicing Reiki.
Wow.
And all of this stuff, and did a lot of reading on meditation and Reiki. And there are too many stories to go into, but he ultimately helped me start my journey with all of this. You know, he told me he would go into like national parks and like do meditations, and like this happened for him in like the 60s and 70s. And I was like, man, I wish but I kind of resonate with that, because I believe that I'm an old soul. And I think that, you know, he was put into my life for a reason, or vice versa, because I guess he's my elder, but not sure.
Well, you were very lucky then, because you didn't have a lot of opposition growing up, or did you? Did your parents fairly open to all of this, or did they try to shut it down?
So I would say they weren't not open to it, but unfortunately, I grew up Catholic. So I
love the unfortunately. Okay.
So just a little side note on that. I will say this, that when I was 10, and I remember it like, you know, it was yesterday, I had been going to catechism, and that's like the Sunday school. And I didn't believe in any of it. And I was that little girl just asking all these questions that just, you know, where I was just like, yeah, I don't know about this, and I don't know about that. That doesn't seem right to me. And even back then, I had a knowing and a feeling, and I just knew that all of this stuff just was, I don't know, didn't resonate with me. And so I did tell my mother, you know, that I didn't want to go, and she didn't make me. After that, you know, we stopped, and she didn't realize that it's not something that I was necessarily interested in. It's just, you know, traditions of my grandmother, and then her, and then, you know, so on and so forth. And so she just did what she knew. I don't necessarily think that it was that how I felt was diminished in terms of like me being like too emotional, stuff like that. But I do think that my biggest influence was definitely my grandfather, but I didn't know him as well back then. I've only started talking about to him about all of this stuff over the past maybe like 4 or 5 years. I never knew this stuff about my grandfather. And he met my grandmother, and she's my Nana, and she's the religious one. So it's really funny, and it's interesting. So I always just thought that they were just, you know.
Well, that was normal. Kids just accept whatever is as being normal. Are they both still alive?
Yeah, they
are. Very lucky. You're very lucky.
They're alive. I know. Yep. So it's, you know, it's just been over the past few years that I've been having these conversations with my grandfather, and it's so interesting because it validates me.
Yeah,
I thought I was the only one.
It's nice to have validation.
Familiarity.
I still said that right. Well,
no, you did
it. Yeah. Did you feel in conflict with Christianity in a fear-based way, because there is this tendency to reject anything that is not part of Christian dogma as being a situation where you're going to hell, and that fear creeps in with a lot of people? Did you have to deal with that, or did that not even ever occur to you?
Oh, that didn't even occur to me personally, because I just because all of this stuff never necessarily like came to fruition until my older years. And that was to the point where I've always been extremely independent, so and like kind of a free thinker, that influences like, you know, my grandmother with the, you know, religion, the Catholic, all of that. I never really cared. I was just like, if you're mad that I'm not going to church, oh well, and this is what I believe, and that's that. And I never allowed like any fear or anything like that to come between what I believe in and vice versa. So no, I never had like a fear necessarily or anything like that. And it really just didn't occur to me until you asking me just now. I don't have an extremely pushy family, but let me give a small example. When we would get together pre-pandemic, like let's say for Christmas, stuff like that. And, you know, I have a fairly big family. Everybody would stand in the living room before dinner and freaking hold hands and say a prayer. And I just didn't join. I just wasn't, it's not, they of course, you know, found it to be, I don't know, rude or childish because they view me as, because they're my elders, they view me as a child, even though I was a grown adult choosing to not, you know, participate. But they've never really treated me any differently. You just know that they're not happy about it.
Well, some ways you were fortunate. I was just thinking that when you achieve your goal of being a school counselor, you may run into children who are brought up into such strict evangelical cult-like situations. I think that there must be a lot to deal with because there's so much going on there. And the evangelical movement at its core, in some of its core locations, are very extreme and very fear-based. And I'm not even sure how I would go about trying to help any kids that are being raised that way. I know someone that I was working with the book was brought up into a sect so restrictive that you would be going to hell if you wore open-toed shoes.
Oh, man.
I mean, that's how bad. Yeah. And it's not, and this was in Connecticut. Okay, so this is not, this is not in Southern Baptist land. And it's like, I thought to myself, how do you help people? How do you help kids who are being brought up that way and must be so terrified that if they break away at all, it's eternity in fire? I mean, I really believe this.
And that's why all of this, to answer your question, is like, that's why I'm getting into this type of work, because I just feel called to do so. That's beautiful. For these very reasons, because it's not necessarily to like just have everybody believe what I believe.
Yeah, you're not converting. You're not converting.
Yeah, I'm not trying to indoctrinate people. But I do want to be even an ear and, to listen and to help if I can, to the extent of like make sure that these children or people, whomever it may be, know that there's not one right or wrong thing, that they can choose for themselves. That, just like my poem, that they are the oar, they, control their vessel, that is, that's what they're here to do.
Oh, what a lovely way to put it. I like that so much. Oh, okay. I remember, well, even if you just are able to give them some love, and receive that love from someone who isn't part of that community, because they really do tend to view people who aren't in that community as somewhat demonic. And that just slides us right into another topic. What is your views on the cosmology and evil and the demonic and the negative aspects that I usually don't want to talk about, because who wants to go there? But on the other hand, you live in this world too.
Yeah.
What are your feelings about that?
So it took me a while to not be afraid, I guess for lack of better words, because I've never necessarily been afraid, because I have trusted in my guides. And for example, like whenever I go into a meditation, I protect myself. I have, the right stones. I ask my guides for protection. I this will be hard for other people to understand that don't get it, but like I will in my meditation surround myself with like crystalline or amethyst of like not physical but like all around me, and I'll make sure that, because they are very real, just to kind of break it down, yes, like demonic, if you want to call it that, or like evil, whatever you want to call it, is very real. And I think that it's important to not feed into it with fear, but with light and love. And it's one of those things where if you tell them that they cannot enter your being, they won't. They can't. They physically can't. They mentally can't. And so it is, as they say. So I'm not scared of anything like that. I'm not scared of talking about it, because I don't allow it to engross my mind. Because once you do, I wouldn't say there could be a problem, but it's a little bit more difficult. You need a lot more, I guess, help on like the light worker side, with all of that. So yeah, I don't know. It's not something that I'm scared of.
I have a tendency to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
Do you do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I've been trying to really figure that out for a long time. What are your theories on that? I mean, 3 o'clock, bam, here I am.
So I've actually grown to believe that it's not even, so I don't watch horror movies, anything like that. I don't actually personally believe that the 3 o'clock waking up is necessarily for fear or for like demonic reasons. I think it's more so of like a calling where, because it doesn't happen to me all the time. Typically when it happens is when I'm, for example, visiting one of my recurring dreams or, something like that. I think a lot of times when I wake up, at that time, I first listen to see if there are any messages for me that maybe my guides need to tell me. And if there's nothing there, I just take it as an opportunity that I need to ground myself. And who knows, it very well could be something evil that you're waking up at 3 a.m. I just don't view it that way. And that's kind of what helps me kind of ground myself and move forward from there. But waking up at 3 a.m. is a very real thing in our community. There are tons of different theories as to why, but that's kind of my aspect of it.
I've moved with different ideas over time, and I certainly don't think I have the answer. I noticed that one of the things that tends to happen once I'm awake is I start beating myself up with old guilt trips and rehashing stuff that I feel guilty about, that I wish I hadn't done that, or sad things that have happened to me. And I decided at some point, well, okay, this could be a sort of demonic torment, is that there's something dark wanting me to feel badly about everything all over again for the 1000th time. And I said, okay, well, what would I do about that? And I said, well, the worst thing I can do to them is pray for the demons. Mm-hmm. And boy, they don't like that. They don't want love from you.
No.
Pray for them, send them some love, and then, well, that isn't what we came for. And kind of off we go. That's a possibility. The other thing is, I thought, well, maybe I have to wake up in order to protect everyone else in the household. I'm on alert now. And usually, there's a cat involved somewhere. which is
Yep.
probably on the alert too, because they're always awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. And maybe it's a protection thing. I don't know, but I kind of wish I did. And it is so common. Almost everyone I know that is even somewhat spiritually awake has got the 3 o'clock thing. So
Yep.
maybe one of these days I'll get an absolute answer. But it's interesting that we're all doing it.
We
So
are.
something.
And personally, not to cut you off, but personally, I think that if that is what you believe it to be, then it probably is.
Could be.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I mean, you're also an intuitive type person. It's if you have a feeling that this is when you wake up and your first thought is protection, right? For example, yes, that is, you're being told to do that. So,
That could
do
be.
a little, close your eyes, do a little meditation.
Oh, that's a
When
good.
I'm doing, when stuff like that happens to me, if I hear, for example, like protection, just to keep it easy to understand, I'll close my eyes, and because you can meditate even with your eyes open and walking down the street. But I'll close my eyes and I picture my protection meditations as, how could I explain it? As like a grid almost, where if I'm sending like good protection energy out, I'll basically picture my whole house as like a grid, and I'll expand my consciousness like out more and more and more until it fills the entire house like a sonar.
That's nice.
Yeah, and then at the end of each like little grid, I put like crystalline, or I'll put like some sort of light and any type of like good energy there, and I'll keep building out until it encases my entire house. And I'll ask my guides to assist me with that, and then I'll be good to go from there. So I don't know if that could be, helpful, something that you can try to do, if you wake up at 3 a.m. and that thought comes to your head.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. I think that's a
Yeah.
beautiful vision. And and I think that's definitely something that I'm going to try. And I guess we probably have come to the fullness of the hour of our however long we've been here, and I don't really want to end this. I want to go on all day, but there's only so much ground we can cover at one time. And plus you have less to do, and well, I guess so do I. So I think I'll let you go, and the assignment will be to think of more things to talk about in the future, because I would love to do this again.
Absolutely. I think that next time we should go into like new age, because I hate that term, and I'd like to touch more on that.
All right, that's a deal. I will meet you at a later time. Okay. Thank you very much, Cassie. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Carol. Have a good day.
I hope you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on your favorite topics. Patreons are always welcome. Trolls will be deleted. Special thanks to Super Patreon Joe Pagana for his support, and to Tom Mays for the music. You can email me at anomalytrain@protonmail.com, and I will do my best to get right back to you. Lastly, thank you, Art Bell, wherever your soul is. I know it must be a happier place for you.